Now, for learning a language, I'm going to be referring you to a couple of great sites. One is the Tower of Babelfish, which is an independent site that will tell you a lot about the principles of learning languages very quickly, overcoming pronunciation, vocabulary, and grammar. There are a lot of great articles here. I'm also going to refer you to Benny Lewis's site. He's the gentleman who gave the TED Talk we linked earlier, and he's developed a fluent in 3 months methodology which helps a lot of people overcome the barrier of learning a language. Nonetheless, let's review some of the major talking points here involved in learning a language, just to give you a brief overview of what's going to be contained in these websites.
When applying the skills to learning new languages, there's a very important rule that differs from other information. That is, no translating words to your native language. This is how Rosetta Stone works, for example, and it's for a very good reason. When you translate a word, you create one neural link to that word in your existing or native language. This is a very weak connection and it's very easy to forget. If you've ever done a Google Translate on a word and forgotten it immediately thereafter, you understand why. Instead, you need to link it to an existing mental marker or image, feeling, smell that's already densely built into a neural network. This way, you're tapping into that network and the material stays much more relevant for your mind. Now, for pronunciation of a new language, you want to try to think of neurally linked words and sounds that you already know. So, for example, if we're learning Spanish and the word is bathroom or baño, try to think of a crazy situation to dual encode, a very memorable one. For example, if you're trying to find the restroom in a restaurant and you have a little bit of an accident, they're pretty likely to ban you, or baño. Now, this does seem really silly, and I understand that, but it works for improving your memorization of foreign sounds in a new language. Just remember, we're not translating here. We're linking neural points of sounds to neural points of concepts. Needless to say, if you didn't already check out Benny Lewis's amazing TED Talk, check it out. I'll link it again in the course notes. Benny talks about the very important subject of motivation. It's something we already talked about, and so I'm not going to loop over it. But with something as complex as a language, it requires a lot of dedication, and so make sure you're adhering to Malcolm Knowles' 6 requirements for adult learning. Make sure you have a reason to learn the language, a pressing interest, an opportunity to practice, and that you're connecting it to your existing experiences and knowledge. So I recently had the opportunity to meet a real-life polyglot, and not someone who's intentionally studied 20 or 30 languages, but someone who was a self-proclaimed natural language learner. He told me how he spoke 6 different languages, starting from the age of 5 or 6, and I immediately took the opportunity to pick his brain. I wanted to see if his methodology that he'd kind of developed, or which he believed came naturally to him, coincided with the methodologies that we've been discussing, both for regular learning and for language learning. Now, he told me that his secret was that he rarely ever learns in classes. In fact, he told me that he struggled very much to learn in a classroom setting with a textbook. He said that things didn't seem real enough, and he couldn't extract enough meaning or really get a feel for the words he was trying to learn. This sounds familiar. He also told me that he learned languages primarily by speaking to people in real-life situations. He would try to get by in the language or listen to people in the supermarket speaking that language. Now, what this tells me is that he's creating contextual memories and linking them to existing neural networks. He probably already has a situation where you ask the butcher how much something costs or how much it weighs, and so he's linking these new words to those existing neural networks. This is in complete contrast to the way you learn in a class, where you create hypothetical scenarios. I need to go to the restroom, or can you tell me where the library is? These things stand completely alone, and that's probably why he struggled so much to learn in a language class. Trying to get by in the language and feeling around for the words or dancing around the words that you don't know is also a really great way to create experiential learning. For example, I'll never forget the proper conjugation of the word flowers in Hebrew because when I was young, I conjugated it incorrectly into a completely different word. And it was an embarrassing memory, but it helped me remember the proper conjugation of the word. So different experiences are going to be very helpful, and if you're studying in a classroom, if you're reading a textbook or passively taking in these experiences, you're not going to actually remember them. Another pretty interesting thing, without knowing it, this polyglot was actually abiding by most of Malcolm Knowles' 6 rules for adult learners. For example, he told me that it was his passion to learn languages. And he took it very, very seriously because it's something he loved and enjoyed doing. And when I told him, that's very impressive, you could probably learn 20 languages if you wanted to, he immediately replied, yeah, but I don't have any use for 20 languages, and so I won't invest the time. This kind of shows us that having the proper motivation and having the proper applicability is important in language learning, and this is something that this natural polyglot had already figured out on his own. Another interesting thing he said to me was that he writes everything down and he tries to look at pictures a lot. Now, this coincides with the method that I've seen for using Anki and learning languages. What a lot of people do on Anki is they'll actually watch a movie in a foreign language with subtitles. As they go along, this will give them context and meaning for different situations and different words. And because Anki allows you to take screenshots and upload images, they'll actually just upload that image right there and then. So if you're trying to learn the word for pirate in German, and you have a screenshot of Johnny Depp and the word in German below in subtitles, that gives you context and meaning and links it to your already existing knowledge about pirates or about Johnny Depp or anything that will draw it closer in to that network. So this is a really amazing tool. I've been using it myself to brush up on my language skills, and I can tell you it really, really works. Now, as far as speed reading other languages, it's going to vary a lot per languages. I'm told that in Chinese, Japanese, and Korean, none of which I personally speak, of course, speed reading is extremely difficult as the density of meaning to eye span is already highly condensed. In German, I'm told that you must focus on the end of the sentences. In Semitic languages such as Hebrew, Turkish, Farsi, or Arabic, you should focus on the centers or root formations of the words. As more and more of you take this course and apply the skills to other languages, we're really looking for feedback and we hope to expand the language learning portion. So if you figure out a different tip or trick or you have some ideas on how to speed read your native language, please let us know and we'll be adding it to the course.